I'd like permission to study the Necronomicon.
The legend of the Necronomicon has it that long ago the Earth was inhabited by a species from another dimension, with certain chants from the book, coupled with ancient rites and sacrifices. This race, the old ones, can be brought back.
Welcome back to the Last Word podcast on our special Halloween. Ooh. And we brought back a special guest. Joseph is here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Backed by unpopular demand.
Yep.
No, I think your episode was one of the most popular, so that's why you're back.
Yeah. And we're here to talk about all things spooky. Halloween is quickly approaching, and so let's get into it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are some of your guys' favorite memories from Halloween as a kid?
Right into it.
Yeah. That's a great question.
Well, I would like to say really quickly, thank you guys for having me again.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I had a fantastic time recording the first one. I do feel like, though, I need a special cool name, though, because, I don't have one. Joseph, are you kidding me?
Rabbit and Jay and Joseph.
Right, and then just Joseph.
Rabbit? Are you fucking kidding me? That's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my goodness.
It sounds like you're about to recruit people for the Matrix.
I agree.
You know? That's what that movie was about.
It's an old nickname.
It was cute. So, comment down below. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We'll make a poll. What should replace my name, which is Joseph currently, but,
right.
We'll workshop it. We can legally change it.
Yep.
But anyway.
Nothing legally binding. Let's make that clear. I'm sorry, guys. They take the fun out of everything.
Yeah, that's really lame.
Halloween.
Wait,
yes.
Were you able to celebrate Halloween as a kid?
It was a very, convoluted celebration. The church was like, well, this is happening, so we're gonna jump on board, but try to make it as lame as possible. You guys remember, of course, the cover that they used to do of, I can't remember the band. Linkin Park cover.
Yeah.
So for Halloween, we would do a haunted Christian house.
Oh.
Which essentially would be very obviously, you can imagine the budget was astronomical. We had all of the special effects teams flown in from all around the world to work on
par with Universal Horror Nights.
Yeah, Universal Wishes.
Yeah.
So so we would just decorate the trailer that we would use for fellowship and other church parties. But we would somehow mix in the message of God, this is the devil, you should repent your sins so you don't have to personally meet him. And then it would be Frank dressed up as a devil.
Right.
Which it was a very interesting time. So we were not allowed to go trick-or-treating, which I guess Jesus doesn't believe in cavities or enjoying anything. But we did have that little haunted house thing that was terrible, as you can imagine. It was terrible. People would come and would be like, what is going on here? And once again, I'm put in the midst of my worst fears of being I have to witness to strangers.
Yep.
And I just want to enjoy Halloween.
Oh boy.
Yep.
So I definitely have garnered a love for Halloween in my later years. But growing up, it probably was not my favorite holiday, for sure. But that was kind of the tradition of my church's Halloweens.
And did your church do anything else? Was there like a little party or something like that? Or was it just that weird haunted house and
I feel like
that's it?
After it was done, everybody like pat themselves on the back, maybe ate a little bit of food, and then everybody had to clean up all this shit. And then we left. So it was very,
wow.
it was very, it was the definition of anticlimactic.
Right.
It was just like, it was not a sexy time.
Wow. Because I know some churches for kids, they do like a party as opposed like, so instead of the kids going out trick-or-treating and like celebrating Halloween, they go to the church and there's food and stuff like that and games and probably candy too, but it's at the church. You know what I mean? So it's still like a Halloween almost celebration, but it's like church.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys.
No, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It was not that. That was not.
We were
the
not about the fun aspect of things.
case. Wow.
So, yeah.
How did that make you? Did you ever like compare yourself to like other kids who got to go out and have fun?
Yes.
Like how was
all
that?
the time? I was like looking. I was like that like really sad child who's too sick to go outside and play with the other kids, and I just like had my hand and my face pressed against the glass, looking out.
No.
Yeah.
That was definitely me. And then I would hear like stories or just like see everybody's like really grisly costumes, and it was definitely like another alienating factor I had to deal with while growing up, and also it was just another thing that made me different from like even from like you guys when we would hang out. It was another thing that I had to live with in the back of my head that was just like, you know, like I knew everybody always like accepted me, but it was me in my own head being like, I don't belong here, you know, because of specific reasons. So it had some like not great effects. But
that's really horrible.
I think that's just kind of something that's been like a reoccurring theme in my origin story. But like the idea of not belonging or not being comfortable in any kind of situation, or even in my case, my own like skin. Right. So that branched out into other things. Luckily, my mom was a very creative person growing up. So like growing up as my dad being a preacher, we didn't have a lot of money, of course. So my mom would like sew our Christmas gifts, and she would sew us costumes that were, you know, like acceptable, like appropriate, like PG. So like, but she would sew like some really crazy stuff. Like one year, I was like Scruff McGruff, the crime dog, or something like that. I don't know if you remember that, or if anybody remembers that. You're old as dirt, and we love you. Wow. So she went all out and she made me into a dog, and it was like I was just like solving crime on the side. Like I was feeling my full Scruff McGruff fantasy. You know, I was like, I don't know, I was like an episode of CSI with, you know, like a dog, a huge dog who like sniffed out crime, and he had a little magnifying glass and like a trench coat. I was like one life slip away from being a flasher, but it was
because he was like a Rottweiler kind of with a big trench coat and maybe a hat. And I think the catchphrase was like, "Only you can take a bite out of crime," or some shit like that.
I
Something
just barely. I'm having
along
this
those
like
lines.
really tiny image because I think I'm a little young for that. But
okay.
But I kind of like recognize it.
Every
it
episode, she was like, I'm too young to understand this reference.
I just want to remind you that you guys are old as shit.
And then me and Jay are over here rotting in the corner. We're like, well, back in our day, this looks Scrap McGrime dog. Don't forget about Smokey the Bear.
For our
and that one lion who didn't want us to do drugs. Sorry, go on.
There was a Dare lion and Smokey the Bear. And was it for our elementary school, the mascot? That
was a dog.
The crime-fighting
was
dog,
that just like literally is nobody going to know what that is?
No.
Because it was just our school?
No, I think it was a thing.
Was it a thing?
At least in New Mexico. But I know I think that was our mascot, too, on top of it all.
Jose Barrios did some, like, major copyright infringement. we had some mascots. I liked how like the mascots were always like, only you can do this.
Yeah.
Like Smokey the Bear, like only you can prevent forest fires. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not the one like sparking up in the forest.
Yeah, it's like,
Smokey.
How do I do that?
Like your tone is very pointed right now, and I don't know why it's at me. I'm innocent, Smokey, and also the lion dude who doesn't want me to do math.
Yeah.
I mean, you just shouldn't do meth, but yeah,
Well,
if a lion is telling you.
If a lion is telling you, it's that much more convincing. Besides, like
Right.
all
That's
the
an
other
impressible-
awful
impressionable
shit that will
child.
happen.
Yeah.
It's true.
I actually wore an outfit the other day. I wore a Dare pin with the lion on it. And some people were like looking at me, and I'm like, obviously I'm wearing this ironically and like nostalgically, like, but also don't do drugs.
But-
if you smoke marijuana, your dick will fall off.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
There's a
why you
lot.
don't have a dick. It fell off. I'm kidding. No, we do drugs.
Let's be real.
But I mean, not to make light of the situation, because I know that you've like had history. But anyway, we went from church to Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
To really, I think that's to blame for why there are furries now.
It's a possibility.
Because, I don't know, the lion was kind of hot, you know? The Dare lion, he was hot, and that's the reason why there are furries now. Rabbit. Am I alone in this? Like, Smokey the Bear was literally a bear.
I don't.
Like he was a bear.
Oh my
this
gosh.
They
is true.
created furries.
Right.
This
I
is
mean, it's definitely possible, but I don't think I ever really saw the Dare lion. Like, I don't think they had him at my like Dare presentations.
Did you have any kind of mascot that was hot?
No.
Okay. I'm just the one.
Yeah. You're alone in this here, but there's someone out there.
There's someone out there who's listening who is.
Who's
There's
like,
someone out there
I get it.
listening who's now not listening anymore.
Right. They're like,
Because
oh.
they're like, this is some bullshit.
13 minutes in.
Right, this is not the
They're like,
episode
okay.
that I was promised.
All right, well, I feel
This
like
guy wants to fucking lie.
I feel like you guys could have better friends to invite to do this. So whose fault is it now?
It's a little
kidding.
on us. It is. I mean, we don't have a lot of friends, so.
Right.
I'm kidding. I guess that is just
Costume.
it.
Church and
Was
costumes.
that, and so you had your Scruff McGruff costume. Was that the most notable one in your head that you remember?
She also sold me like this bomb elephant costume when I was little.
Right.
It was some straight up like Paris couture off the runway. She did such a good job. Like my mom she really made it work. So I think that was my favorite part about Halloween. The part that I got to partake in was like dressing up at school.
Yeah.
And then at like the church events we dressed up as like sinners. So
Oh my goodness.
like the band tees.
That's a sinner.
That's how
crazy.
we dress now.
Yeah, we're sinners.
I literally dressed back then as a quote unquote sinner as I do now. Like
Yeah.
that was that's my fashion inspiration now. Is dressing up as a sinner for my Christian Halloween event.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's
But I think if I like look
my
back,
vision.
if I look back on my childhood days, that was my favorite part because I didn't get to partake in a lot, like as we just discussed. But
Yeah.
the parts I really got to partake in, my mom really tried her hardest to make them fun for me, and I would like help her, and I think that's really where I learned how to like a lot of my basics for sewing and for like working with fabrics. That's where it kind of came from, and that's
Yeah.
what I do
Yeah,
a lot
I was
of
just
now.
I was just gonna ask you that.
Yeah.
If you think that your mom, like helping your mom with that or watching her influenced you to
Absolutely,
be the
absolutely.
fashion genius you are
And
now.
I don't know if she understands that that she always will like accredit my creativity to like my dad's side of the family, which were like painters and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I don't paint, Mom, I sew. And I was like, and you're the person who started me down that path. So there was something that really great that came from it.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like we talked about last time when we talked about our relationships with organized religion. We talked about, well, at least I like touched on the point of like not being bitter or not holding resentment towards things, and that's what I've really been trying to do recently, and especially towards my mom. Like the stuff that she did instill in me are really important to who I am today. So
Yeah.
I can sew a bitch, like I can sew
That's right.
house down, like it's, and that's not something that I would have maybe known.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
But anyway, what about your favorite Halloween stuff while you were young? Rabbit, Jay?
Yeah, well, we were always able to celebrate Halloween. So Halloween and my church was at least, as far as I know, pretty separate. And in the beginning, my mom didn't start really going to church until after the divorce of my dad. And so that's more so when religion came into it. But before then, we always celebrated Halloween. I remember the whole family would go out, we'd go get pumpkins, and we'd like clear off the whole dining room table, put all these newspapers down, and carve pumpkins. And we would make a whole night out of it. I grew up watching scary movies, like probably when I was like way too young to watch like scary movies. I remember seeing It. I think that was one of the first. And I'm terrified of the original. Absolutely terrified of
Rest
the
in peace,
original.
Stephen Curry.
Yeah.
No. Anyways,
He
and
died,
so
didn't
we always dressed up.
Is he dead? Is he dead?
Stephen King?
Stephen Curry,
Oh,
who played It.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
no,
sure
he's not.
he's not.
No.
Well then, don't rest in peace. Go on. I'm
I
sorry.
think he had a stroke.
Oh.
Though he's really old and
no.
like sick now.
Okay. Well. Okay. Sorry. Go on.
So we always dressed up, and I always went trick or treating. Trick or treating was a big deal, and yeah, I mean that didn't really die out even in high school. I'd dress up, we'd go trick or treating, and it got a lot funner when I was in high school because then I got to go with like my friends and got to go do stuff like that, and then even as an adult now. We dress up, we make our own costumes, we like to go out places and scare children.
Or we buy them from Albertsons.
Yep. Last minute.
So I always had a really amazing time with Halloween and I loved it. And so I still doing some of those traditions now. So we still carve pumpkins every year.
Yeah,
sexy.
we do the whole thing. For me, Halloween, from as far as I can remember, was always a thing. I think my parents did it, went really into it for my brother and me, for the kids, basically. As young as I can remember, we always celebrated Halloween. When my brother and I were younger, we decorated intensely the whole house, all the trees out in front. We get those little ghosts and pumpkins. They're plastic bags, and you fill them with newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
We'd tie them all over the trees. The whole front porch would be decorated. There'd be something on the door. Inside would be decorated. It was a thing. It was always very exciting Halloween for me. Always went trick-or-treating, always dressed up. I was a vampire a lot, I remember, and a ninja a lot. Those were my go-to costumes, was a ninja or a vampire.
Yeah, my go-to costumes were usually a witch or a cat.
Nice.
I remember those two a lot.
Yeah.
Witch and a cat.
Yeah, and that's really what I remember as far as costumes go. It was just always fun, always. I remember being really little, 5 years old, and going trick-or-treating. And when we were younger, when I was probably 3, my brother was 5, Jose Barrios, our elementary school, would do something for Halloween for the kids to go to instead of trick-or-treating. It wasn't it didn't have any religious spin on it. It was just for kids to go there instead of going out. And so we would do that.
Propaganda.
No. So we would do that when we were really young. And then once we were, I guess, old enough, my parents actually started taking us places. And we went all around. And mostly my parents would take us to people they knew, houses we knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All knew that were loaded.
Yeah.
They're we're not going to go to to Bethany down the road. She doesn't have shit.
Yeah,
She has
exactly.
shit candy.
Exactly. Yeah, they would, and because they knew us even more so, they would like all the people would like
Yeah.
really spoil us with like get as much as you want and all this
She's
stuff.
like, here's a 3-tier cake.
Yeah, well, one of my mom's friends always makes treats for like the holidays, and she used to always specifically make us stuff for Halloween, like
Aw.
homemade popcorn balls and like cookies and stuff like that.
Oh my god, I haven't had a popcorn ball
Yeah,
in years.
That
No,
would-
I think the last one I had you made. Did you used to make popcorn balls, Rabbit?
she's made them for Halloween a couple years, but it's been a
Not
while.
not balls.
Are you sure?
I don't have balls. No, but I make caramel popcorn.
Are you sure?
No, you've made popcorn.
I'm pretty
balls.
sure
I
I've
don't
eaten your
think so.
balls.
We're pretty sure you have balls.
I've munched on them and enjoyed them intensely.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't
and I've
think
seen
so.
them
I
plenty
made.
of times.
I made Rice Krispie treats before.
I feel like you made.
I
popcorn
feel like you're
balls.
lying.
I don't think
or
I
not
am.
not
I
lying,
don't
like
remember.
not
I
remembering.
feel like you're purposefully lying, and it's horrible.
and it's really
No, I don't think.
putting
I don't
me
think
off.
I ever have.
I think you have, because you made popcorn balls and you put like pieces of candy corn in them. I'm pretty sure.
Did you make them at Silver City when we went down that
no,
one year?
I didn't.
Hmm.
Anyway.
Well, anyway,
popcorn
balls.
balls.
Okay, I
a
make
classic,
treats.
a classic Halloween treat. Popcorn balls.
Ooh.
Yeah. So those were always good. My mom always used to make stuff too. Like it was tradition every Halloween before we went trick or treating. She'd make a popcorn in the kettle, like homemade.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, with the butter and stuff like that. We would do sugar cookies, Halloween cookies, as kids, and have like the little cutouts, like as
Yeah.
bats and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was always big for us. Halloween was always a thing. Always.
Yeah.
It was.
I remember like when Halloween was on school nights
Mhm.
where I'd have to like come home. My mom would make me eat dinner.
Yeah.
She's like, no, you have to eat dinner before you put your costume on.
Yeah.
And like we're not going until like 7.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you'd get home at like 4.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I remember, and that whole like leading up to Halloween, like my mom made me eat my tacos, and I'm like, I just want to get my costume on, and like them not letting me and stuff like that. Like it was all very exciting and almost kind of nervous.
The mind
like,
game.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
to
yeah.
get you to eat your food.
I know. It's like I want to be a vampire. Come on.
I just want to be a vampire ninja.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want my taquitos, Mom.
Just leave me alone. I'll eat the tacos when I get home. It was always so exciting for me. I just remember the feeling.
And then
always
didn't you
being
used to
very
like wear
exciting.
your costumes the rest of the year?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
just
I
'cause you
mean, at
had
that
them?
point, because I like to play. You know, obviously, I have a big imagination, and we like to play games and stuff like that. So I'd always
Mhm.
play pretend or whatever. So like, yeah, it wasn't like, oh, I have a ninja Halloween costume. It was like, oh, now I have a ninja costume. Like, so
Yeah.
I could be
Yeah.
a ninja anytime I want now, and I would wear it. It'd be like May, and I'd be playing outside,
Yeah.
and I'd be in my ninja costume.
Yeah.
'cause I'm a ninja now.
It's
So,
badass.
yeah.
Because some of the best assassinations are done in May.
Yeah.
The
I mean, why
weather's
not?
beautiful.
The nights are crisp and not cold.
The
so-
unsuspected politician
Exactly.
is unsuspecting.
I remember
Dumb.
one Halloween. I think I was in first grade, and my parents took my brother and I to a haunted house. It was like the college haunted house, and it was the like worst fucking experience in my
Oh,
fucking
no.
life.
Wait, was it a
horrible.
bad house or
No, because it was so
So
scary.
scary.
I was
Oh,
too
no.
little.
How
I
old
was
are you?
too-
Wait,
I was
you
like
told-
6.
6?
Yeah.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, I was like in first grade, and they took us.
You
and-
should have gone to our Christian haunted house.
Right? That probably still would have scared me
You
because
wouldn't want to go to haunted house ever
as
again.
we've discussed anyway, like I was a nervous kid anyway, which was always weird because I loved Halloween, but I was so
Worst.
nervous and so scared all the time.
Yeah.
But we went there, and I was excited. I was like, "This is gonna be cool," and I had no idea what it was. And then right away going in, like, "Oh, this is the worst!" Like just being so
Oh,
scared.
no.
And it really, honestly, wasn't that scary.
But
But as a 6-year-old, it's
Yeah, as a
the
child.
worst
they're literally
experience in
just
the world.
talking about as someone who had a large imagination growing up.
Mhm.
That
And I
does not
remember
help.
one part specifically. We were like in this dark hallway, and there was like, you know, classic like cut up like large garbage bags, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and there would be people like coming out from behind him and like reaching and then like going away. And I remember stopping. I was like, Mom, like I don't want to do this. I don't want. And she stopped, and she was like, she turned around and was looking at me, and she's like bending that. She's like, it's not real. It's fine. It's not real. And as she's doing that, there's someone reaching out from behind the garbage bags and like reaching at her. She's like, it's not real. It's not real. It's fine. And I'm like, Mom. And like at that point, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the thing behind her. I'm like, Mom. And she's like, it's not real. It's fine. And then it like went behind her, and I'm like, ah, and then she screamed. She went, ah! I was like, oh my god! And
What an experience for you,
like,
already being
fuck
scared.
that, telling me not to be scared, and she just like, there's something that just grabbed her, and like, it is real. Yeah.
She fucking screams.
And so she got scared, telling me it's not real. It's fine.
Not
Don't
real,
be afraid.
It's okay.
So we went through it. It was horrible. And I think even to this day, I really don't like haunted houses or haunted mazes. I hate them. I think because of that.
I think the last time though that we had experience going to a haunted house, you got really scared.
I got really scared.
You got really scared.
Yeah, well, at the end.
At the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Since I'm bringing up all my embarrassing moments, let's talk about that.
Rabbit's like,
but it wasn't
let me
that
add on to
embarrassing.
this feast.
Hey, it is on the
I brought
theme,
some side
guys.
dishes.
It is.
We went to...
In Wisconsin, we went to...
It's in Minnesota.
Well, when we were living in Wisconsin, there also is no difference between Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yes,
When we were
there is.
living in Wisconsin, we went to a theme park. It's called Valley Fair. It's in Minnesota. But during Halloween, it's called Valley Scare.
Oh,
Yeah.
the marketing team really just
they went for
shined.
Yeah.
And of course, like so many amusement parks now, they would do something special for Halloween. They would have haunted mazes and all that
Little
stuff.
scare zones
And shows. And so we drove all the way there, and it was great. I had a lot of fun. I went through all the mazes and stuff like that, and it was fine. It was spooky, but it wasn't too much. But there was one point where we just went through a clown one.
Like a circus, clown.
And I hate clowns. Just anyway. And we got to the end of it. We were outside of it. We were walking away. And apparently everyone saw it, but no one told me. But there was a clown as we were walking out near the exit.
Oh god.
Waiting, hiding, and scaring people.
It's like one of those jump scares where you think you're in the clear, and they're
exactly.
They're like, you're not.
And we did all saw him. I seen him and acknowledged him.
It was me and then three people next.
You're like, hello.
It was me and three people next to me.
Day.
Rachel's friend, and Rachel's mom. Everyone saw him except for me. I was at the end, and no one said anything. No one did anything. So he jumps out with his chainsaw. He had a chainsaw also, which is horrifying.
Of course.
And
they always have a chainsaw.
I didn't even see him. I just heard the noise, and I just started running. I just ran. I just heard a scream and a chainsaw, and I screamed. I was like, ah, and I just started running, and I just ran.
Well, I mean, growing up with Leatherface as a Halloween staple or just horror staple, the noise of a chainsaw, I think, automatically puts you on edge because it's either you're cutting down a tree or you're cutting down me.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I can't imagine.
What I remember the most about that maze, though, is
was horrible.
First of all, I liked the beginning, and I like being scared. I love haunted houses. But the end of that maze, they had some blow up I don't even know what they were called.
They're like airbags.
Airbags, just in middle of this hallway, and it actually my mom's claustrophobic. I'm not, but I don't like the sensation of being trapped between these things.
Yeah.
And so that was the most it started making me sick. I got nauseous. I didn't feel good going through this. So when I got out, I was happy to be out and very aware of my surroundings. So I think that's why the rest of us saw them. Yeah.
Except for me. But yeah, that part was these giant airbags on either side of the hallway, all filled up so that you're going through, and it's there's barely any room to push through, and it's all black. Yeah. So you can't see.
You can't see. You just have
if you're claustrophobic, it would be a terrible experience.
Oh, my mom hated it. Yeah. My mom hated that part. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good at all, and I don't remember what my friend was doing. He was weird.
It must have been
non-existent.
He must have been okay with that. Yeah. But you were behind me.
Being
I think I was
ghost.
oh my god.
I'm sorry.
Ooh, ghost friend. He was
Yes,
never there.
Yes, I had a ghost friend.
This is some Sixth Sense plot twist over here. Where's
But-
M. Night?
Yeah, Halloween was always a great experience for me, usually, and I was always so excited for Halloween.
Can we
always.
talk about haunted houses and like the
Sure.
science behind it?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember where I heard it from, but somebody's talking about like why people go into haunted houses, and it's the idea of like giving that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Of-
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's haunted houses, scary movies, all that stuff.
they
It's
give you
like
that stimulation.
being in danger without being in danger. You know
Yeah.
you're safe,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still experiencing it because really your brain, like I think we saw something where it's like your brain can't really differentiate
Yeah.
that's real and fake. So when you're in the situation, your body reacts the same. It's scary. You get the
Yeah.
adrenaline, all that stuff, but you know you're safe. You're not gonna get killed. They're not gonna eat you, murder you, any of that. And I guess that's really why people.
Because they compared
flock
it
to
to
it.
like visualization.
Mhm.
And what was this?
Some
We both saw
YouTube
it.
video.
Yeah.
Some random YouTube video.
It was like they compared it to visualization, which
Mhm.
really kind of like made a lot of sense to me. It's like the idea of visualization. Come on, Joseph. Is like, you know, like visualizing something, and then your brain doesn't really differentiate that from reality.
Mhm.
So a lot of like, you know, sometimes it can actually come to be like when it comes to like achieving a goal, like winning a tennis match or something
Right.
like that. Like you're visualizing to win it. But then the idea just kind of like why people do haunted houses. So like people, there are people who like travel around the world, you know, to go to like the most intense haunted houses for this kind of like stimulation, this like adrenaline rush, this just high, this high of like
Yeah.
being in danger and on dust doors. So I think I've gone to haunted house too, so I've kind of I've endured it too. I believe there was also a clown wielding chainsaw.
Yeah.
A clown wielding chainsaw.
No, that's scary.
A chainsaw with like a
sentient
little
chainsaw
clown.
with like arms and legs, but it's just a chainsaw holding a
clown.
It's like
Holding
swinging
a
it
clown.
around.
So we won't talk about maybe the creativity that goes into these haunted houses,
Right.
but I think like the idea behind them may just seem like, oh, we're just going to a haunted house, but like the science behind it's really interesting to see like why it's so effective.
Right. And I feel like there's different categories for it. Some people go because they genuinely like horror. They like to
Yeah.
see what people do with it. You know what I mean? So
And some
the
people go
different-
because they're forced.
exactly,
Like
yeah,
me.
because all your friends are going and you really don't
Peer
have a choice.
pressure.
Peer pressure, or your family's going and you're a child and you can't make your own decisions. But anyway,
Where was the childhood mascot that was like, only you can make decisions that
Yep.
you
Yeah,
want to go to
only
this
you
or
can
not?
set your own boundaries, even when you're 5. But no,
That's
that was
not a
never
thing,
a
apparently.
childhood mascot. It was always listen to your parents and don't do drugs. So that's what I did. And
Well,
look at me now.
0 for 2.
Exactly. Where people like to see what haunts do and the visuals and all that stuff, because a lot of it, I love watching videos of haunted houses and all the
Yeah.
Halloween Horror Nights Universal stuff going on right now. It's really cool to see everything they do with the scares, with the creatures and all the effects and stuff is really cool. And even to the point, I think I'm at this point where I probably could walk through one, but I don't know.
Ooh.
Like, since being in that situation as a kid, I don't like being scared like that. Like
Yeah.
I guess the anticipation of being scared. Like, I hate it.
It's,
I hate
Ooh,
it.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
I don't know. What do you think, Rabbit, as far as why people do it? Why do you love it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I like the feeling of, the anticipation. I like how it feels. And I like the idea that people go through to imagine these things and to make them real, or, And, I love walking through. I love looking at all of it. And then there's, a person standing behind me waiting, or, well, not behind me, or in front of me or whatever, or surrounding
Beside of
me.
you.
Just waiting to get that scare.
Yeah.
Because I love it. And that's why I said, like, I was so young when I saw my first scary movie. I had to have been, like, 5. like maybe like 6, and I was probably way too young, but it already like gave me like, it desensitized me from an early age.
Yeah.
And I grew up watching movies like that, and now I love them, and I love watching them. Yes?
I have a recommendation
What?
for our listeners.
Oh.
If you haven't seen already, it's an HBO show called Los Spookies. It's about a ragtag like group of friends that like actually like do like special effects for like events and stuff like that, and it's just a comedy. I don't know if either of you have seen it, but it's just very, watch it. I think it's super cute, and it reminds me of everything we're talking about now, because they literally do like a haunted house. They do like a haunted like quinceañera theme for his like sister. It's just
my
it's an
goodness.
interesting story, but that was just a side note. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to
So-
our programming.
But yeah, I mean, I like the feeling of it.
You like the feeling.
I like the feeling,
Interesting.
and I feel kind of accomplished afterwards.
Well, yeah, and
like,
that
hey,
makes sense.
like I went through all of this.
Because even
and-
as a child, when I went through that first one, when I got to the end of it, I was like pumped. I was like, yeah, that was awesome. And it was just more excited and adrenaline that I survived, I guess.
Oh.
So I get that. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like as much as I hate going through one, I would totally love making one.
Oh, yeah.
Or even
Yes.
scaring people in one would be fun. But like, being creative, people like conceptualizing a haunt and then thinking of all the scares and all the creatures in it and then making the sets and stuff like that would be amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
and that would be right up like our alleys
Yeah.
of what we like to do and what we want to do.
Like for all three of us.
all
would
three
be,
of us.
Coming soon.
Right, coming soon.
Last word.
Last Word Podcast
Podcast.
presents
Presents
Haunted House.
Haunted house
Haunted
in the
house.
spare bedroom.
It's gonna be.
It's like 15 by 15, so one person at a time. I'm ready.
It's quick and it's
Can you imagine like Chiefy in a little like zombie outfit or
That would be
something,
cute.
in a werewolf outfit?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so
Aw.
cute. But we're trying to make it scary, so I'll be in there.
Just-
just dress up as normal.
it's just you walk into the room, it's just you sitting down.
It's just me,
just you
and I'm
sitting
like, oh, would you like to sit down and have a conversation? And they run out the room screaming.
Yep.
So I
Ouch.
definitely. Ooh. This is also. This hurts
That
me
one stung
too.
me.
That one hurt.
Self-deprecation
I'll be
just
honest,
came
that one
back.
hurt.
That one really slapped.
That one really hurt.
What are we getting into, guys?
Oh, I don't know, but I would love making one.
Yeah,
I think
me
that would be
too.
fun, and I love the art of it too. One thing I guess to mention too in Halloween, I always feel like there's a horror aspect of it. Obviously, scary movies, stuff like that, haunted houses, but there's kind of fantasy aspect to it, almost a magical aspect to it that I don't know. I think really for me is where a lot of my nostalgia and love for the holiday comes from. Where it's like this one night where everyone can participate if they want to. It's not a family holiday like Christmas or Thanksgiving. Anyone can be a part of it. And one night where everyone just kind of drops those walls and lets go and just kind of everyone's a kid for a second. You know what I mean? And I think that's so fun. I remember one time, it was when we were older, in high school, we all went trick-or-treating together. And I don't know if you were there. I don't know if you went. But most of us went. And we were
Was I
going,
there?
I'm not sure. I don't really remember.
That was kind of the start of the rebellious stage, so it could have been.
So you could have been there.
But why don't you tell a story
But-
and I'll be like, that never happened to
Yeah.
me.
I was definitely not.
Here's another thing I was not a part of.
Oh, no. We went trick or treating. It was like the first and I think last time, because there is a point where you're not too old, but like
You're too old.
you are. Yeah, you know what I mean. Where like instead we'll just hang out instead or something
Yeah.
like that. But
It's like,
we went trick or treating, and there was a point where there was a certain I don't even know what neighborhood it was because it looked so different during Halloween. And we were walking down the street, and the street was empty. It was just full of people and kids trick or treating, going house to house, and every house was decorated. There was lights in the street because there was so much lights from the houses. The street was like this weird purple, and I remember just like standing there and like taking it in and being like, this is amazing right now. Like everyone is just enjoying each other and like in this fantasy almost, and like this is all because of Halloween. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was magical to,
Yeah.
for lack of a better description. It was magical. I was like, this is amazing. This is what it's about right here. You know what I mean? So I think there's a magical or a fantasy aspect that people, what really would attract people to Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, when other time during the year do you see just groups of people, I mean, adults and teenagers and children running around in costumes and makeup, and like, when do you ever see that?
That actually, Jay's description actually reminded me when we play D&D, and I think that's why we love it so much, is because we're able to, maybe not physically, but we're able to like mentally create a world where it's different. We're different people. We go on these adventures. We're part of something. It's just a completely different space. And I think that has like that same magic, like to a lesser extent, because we're not dressed up and we're not, but I felt like during your description, that's what reminded me when we play, D&D on Sundays and our party going on little adventures. That's kind of what it reminded me of, that little magic we're able to create. So I think there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, and maybe in that description that best describes it, it was another world. You know what I mean? And it was a world that everyone in that moment believed in. And was a part of. So
everyone was playing a character.
Yeah, and so it was amazing. If we're making recommendations along those lines, I would recommend people to watch. It might be a little hard to find, but it's called The American Scream. And it's a documentary about home haunters in a Massachusetts small town. And home haunters, like, they make like scary haunted houses, but in their backyard. And it's all about just the love for the holiday, because they're not making money off of it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And if someone were to ask me like, well, why Halloween, or like if someone had no concept of Halloween, that would be the movie I showed them, because it's just perfect, and it captures like that whole moment and like the magic of it, and just the I guess the the suspension of belief, or what's it called, or something, where like you go to these things because you want to believe, it's not real, but everyone in that moment is suspension of disbelief, I don't know, where everyone in that moment is willing to believe it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you get that everywhere, but like in D&D, you get that if you go to the movies, depending on, the crowd, you get that, even things like you go to a wrestling match, and everyone's there to enjoy it, and obviously it's not necessarily real, especially the story and all that, but everyone's there to believe it, and that's why it's so fun. And so
that's an interesting perspective, because I never understood why somebody would go to watch wrestling. Like the times that you've gone with the guys, and I've always been like, oh no,
like,
I'm missing out.
But
I get it now.
Yeah, it's
I get
fun.
it to an extent.
It's fun. I mean, for me, there's a lot that goes into it because I'm a fan. But like the physical aspect of it, all the stuff they do is not easy to do and extremely dangerous. But then just like there's for 2 hours you can just
Get
just
caught
like
in the drama.
Yeah, you can let go of all that stuff that normally you would hold on to.
They have the range.
Exactly. And you would just believe it. Believe this is all real, and that those moves are real, and all that stuff. I mean, think about it. All right, it's dramatic.
Yeah.
There's fit people like wrestling, so it's like super physical and like
That's hot.
yeah, sexy, and there's costumes.
There's costume, makeup.
Excuse me.
Yeah, like it's a whole
hair,
thing.
like
Hair.
Stop the podcast. We're going now.
Oh,
There's
no.
hair and makeup. Joseph is breathing heavily.
Hair, makeup, and costumes.
There's actually a podcast I think that Taco told me about. It's called like the Nobodies, and it's all like drag queens, and they just watch wrestling and react to it, and point out like, oh, that's super gay, or like the whole
this
thing,
is
they're
the
like,
gayest thing.
yeah, and like it's just like it's perfect.
I would definitely listen to a podcast where just point out the gay things and things. Like, this is gay.
And so that's great. Like even when I was at the off subject, but at the wrestling in January, there was people like yelling at a wrestler and talking shit, and one of them yelled that your outfit doesn't have enough flair. Like
what a zinger!
And like it's like only in wrestling would that make sense.
That'd
Like
be a thing.
That wrestler got rid of Phil.
To like exactly to like hate on someone because they're not flashy enough, like their outfit is boring.
Your silhouette is not believable.
Exactly. And it's true, like all he was
Take
wearing
me
was
there.
like dress pants and like a dress like a black button-up shirt.
Oh,
and
no,
that's it. And
honey.
it's like, yeah, exactly. It's
No,
like,
meow.
your outfit doesn't have enough flair. It's like, oh
He
man.
my
burst
goodness.
into tears and
Yeah.
walked off the ring.
Exactly. But anyway, so I think that's what makes so many things special in that aspect. But in this case, Halloween, that the willingness to believe
Yeah.
and for everyone to participate in that moment is just, it's awesome. It's magical and spooky.
Oh.
Okay,
I want to suck your. No, just kidding. I won't finish.
No, finish that. Finish that, Joseph.
That was a repeat joke. Okay, so
I mean, that probably covers Halloween, right? As far as what we think.
Does
about
it?
Halloween.
Is there anything else you want to talk about Halloween?
I mean, there's a
it's
million
a
things we
spooky
could talk about
Halloween episode. We have to.
Yeah, I mean, there's Halloween. We could talk about Halloween movies. I mean, there's
Yeah.
Halloween for me can just keep going.
It could.
Why don't you guys talk about your Halloween traditions? Like, what do you
What do we-
what do you
like
like?
what we
What do
do
you love to
now?
watch? What do you like to bake? What do you
Yeah.
like to do?
Well, we usually do, every year we do a Halloween movie night where we eat
You itch.
where we each pick, like 2 movies.
I itch all the time.
That
Eczema. Eczema. Sorry.
Is that, you got eczema.
You got eczema.
You got eczema. LeBron James.
Oh my god. What's the time at?
Just keep going.
No. So no, I don't think I can.
Yes, you can.
You
got
You gotta be a
this.
professional about this.
This is
Take
not a
this
professional operation.
seriously.
Yes. it
Nobody
is.
else takes it seriously. Anyway, so we both pick movies that we want to watch, and I make treats. And I make a lot of different things, but I make baked apples.
Mhm.
So I take fresh apples and cinnamon and
Little brown sugar.
a little brown sugar, mix it all together, and I just put it in the oven, and so I make that. I'll make cookies sometimes, caramel popcorn, just things like that, and we watch movies.
You're
Just
a
like-
bomb baker, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
The talent.
I hope that's a compliment.
It definitely is.
So that's one
How's
of our
that not?
traditions.
How is that? What?
How
How
is
else
that?
would
I
think
never,
that be
I
taken?
never
You know what?
I never know.
That is my fault. I always have like backhanded compliments, so I guess that is my fault.
Okay.
But that was like
Fair.
100% genuine. I did not mean anything else by it.
Okay.
Like, you are very good at baking. I enjoy eating the things that
Thank
you
you.
produce.
Thank you.
I've ruined my friends by being such a bitch.
It's true.
Okay, so what are your... Okay, keep
So
going.
that's one tradition we do. We usually always carve pumpkins. Usually, like the night
Couple
before,
nights or night
couple
before.
nights before, we always carve pumpkins. We always save the pumpkin seeds, and I've been doing that since I was a child. So, and I'll roast them.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the movies that you watch?
Halloween Town.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because like as I said, in Halloween there's a difference for like horror versus Halloween. So with the movies, it's the same. There's Halloween movies, I feel like, and then there's scary movies.
Yeah.
So Halloween movies, Halloween Town, the classic Disney straight to like TV Disney movie, Halloween Town.
Blessed.
Halloween Town 2.
Yes.
Sometimes
California
Halloween
just
Town.
Revenge.
Yeah.
I just like fast forward 2 minutes and you're like, Halloween Town 10.
Halloween Town 13.
Like you're literally just going in order, but every time you're making it sound like you're about to say
Yeah.
something different.
Oh, Halloween Town 6.
Halloween
No.
Town 3D. I'm like, okay.
And then sometimes Halloween Town High. And then Adam's Family 2.
The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas, Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus, I feel, is the one I always see, like, you guys post. Like, that I knew for sure.
Hocus.
Because
Yeah, that one's great.
it's just, I think it really captures the spirit. Nostalgia,
Yeah.
the spirit. Bette Midler's in it.
I mean, there you
That
go.
one chick from Sex and the City.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding.
Whatever her name is.
Whatever, I don't remember.
Um,
I feel like there's 4 names in there. I can't remember all of them.
and what else? Those are like the main
Do you have
ones,
any-
right?
The Rocky
Horror
Horror
one?
Picture Show.
Oh, Rocky
Oh,
Horror, of
yes, for
course.
sure.
Yeah, of
for
course.
sure. What about like do you do Nightmare Before Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
I think we said
Um,
that.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Rachel said
did.
that.
Sorry, my bad. What about? Do you guys have actual horror movies that you
Yeah.
like to watch?
Yes.
Definitely. I think one that's kind of in between, and we watched it last year. Trick or Treat.
Yes,
That one's
that
cool,
was
'cause
fun.
It's like Halloween and a little horror, and it's fun.
I like
It
how he
is.
just
Yeah.
murdered a child.
Yep. No big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like was it the principal?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
But he murdered a child,
'Cause-
and I
Yeah.
was just like, that child's murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe
and they
this.
carved him like a pumpkin.
Mm.
Classic.
Carve me like one of your pumpkins. One of your French pumpkins.
And then more horror stuff. There's so many horror movies that are great. I think for us, we always watch The Crazies. You remember
Is
one?
that
Timothy Oliphant?
do they end up in a truck?
Yeah,
And
like a
there's, like,
semi
train-
truck, and they're going towards. What is it?
I'm like, do they end up in a vehicle at any point in time during the movie?
Well,
And you guys
yes.
are like,
Well, yes, but they end up in like a
Yes.
semi truck, and they're going towards that big city
Yeah.
because their tiny little town is gonna explode.
Yeah, something like that.
I feel that like I have
love that
seen
one.
that, so
Yeah.
that I do believe I enjoyed that.
That one's-
I feel
I
like
think we might have watched it together
maybe
during one of our
How
Halloween
crazy.
movie
know.
nights quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
I feel like streaming platforms have really given people like a gateway into like really goofy movies and stuff, and I think that's a good thing for I don't know if it's a good thing, but like I see the lists that are like 31 days of Halloween on Netflix or 31 days of Halloween on Hulu, and it's just like they have all the different whether or not they be good or bad, they just have like all these original movies. So I definitely think that I need to catch up or like at least watch some of these,
Yeah.
or something. I don't know, behind the times
Yeah, exactly.
when it comes to like traditions. I don't really have any, so
So, with the horror movies, The Crazies, like we said, and yeah, definitely need to catch up. Come on, man.
I
Or you could always
know.
just join us when we do it.
I could be invited. That would be nice.
Okay.
Oh,
Future. No.
Future,
Invite us next year.
next.
Well,
year.
next year's a little busy. We'll try it in 2022.
This is why we don't invite you. But other
Wow.
horror movies, there's The Crazies. What else?
Halloween, but the Rob Zombie
Oh.
The Rob Zombie remake of Halloween.
remake. That I think that
That's
one
a
is
good
one of
one.
my favorites.
Recently added to the list, The Witch. It's very
Oh,
good.
and intense.
Intense. I
I,
love that
I
one.
really want to get on board with that one director who did like Hereditary and Midsommar, just because like the what the fuckery is palpable with those movies.
Yeah.
I've
yeah.
heard. So
Yeah, I saw Hereditary. Didn't see Midsommar, but very much so. It's like
I think it's very
It's
interesting
insane.
that you could like the idea of basing a movie that's scary like throughout like during the day. That's an achievement in
yeah,
itself.
I agree.
I think.
What
But
else?
what else? Rabbit?
I'm not.
We have a whole.
You have like
Oh.
a whole shelf
do.
over there.
Yeah, we
We
do.
do. I'm just-
Cabin in the Woods, which
I
is
love-
horror, but it's fun.
I love that
which is
movie.
always great.
Yeah.
And the concept behind it is just amazing.
Mhm.
Like, so
Yeah.
that one's always fun too for a spooky movie. I like The Conjuring. The first one's kind of
Yep.
spooky.
Yeah, I
It's
love
always a
that
little
one.
spooky. The first Insidious is spooky.
Yes.
We have
Is
a whole
Insidious
shelf
the one
over
with
there.
the like film
Oh, The
that they
Orphan?
watch?
No. Oh yeah, The Orphan.
The
Sorry.
Orphan? Is that the one with the orphan in it?
That's a great.
I'm all, let's recommend all these movies that we're gonna ruin.
Right.
So-
Yeah. If you haven't figured out by now, section is spoiler heavy. But these
Yeah.
are all
Spoiler
old
alert.
movies, so if you
Yeah,
haven't
you
seen
should have
them,
seen them by
you
now.
should
But
have
no,
seen them.
it's with the
Get your shit
it's
together.
with the
Yeah.
couple that adopts an older girl, and
Oh yeah, okay.
yeah,
Right.
she finds
Right.
out that she's just crazy.
But yeah.
Well, we could talk about it.
Like,
We
you
did
just
say
do
spoiler
slight
alert.
spoilers.
Slight spoiler.
Just do a
But we
light
find out
spoiler.
like that she's a grown woman, but she's just like a dwarf or something.
Oh,
What a twist.
I'm pretty sure I saw an episode of like Law and Order
It was like that.
SVU that was like that.
Interesting.
SVU.
SV.
What is wrong with
SUV.
me and
Law
not
and
being
Order
able to put
SUV.
words in order? Like the brain cell, my last two brain cells are really just fighting each other today.
Yeah.
Mm.
A
That
chainsaw wielding
sounds
clown.
Chainsaw.
Clown wielding chainsaw. I don't remember.
Oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one,
Yep.
the like 1975 or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. Night of
that-
the Living Dead, the original. I love that one.
All good.
Mm-hmm.
Although, is that scary? I mean,
No,
it is.
It's.
But
I don't think it's scary. I mean, but
I,
it's
I
cool.
love it though. I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot, but that's
It, the remake.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
also
the-
one of
the
my
first
favorites.
one,
But not the
remake.
second one.
Mhm.
I've heard
No,
from
we
you
saw-
guys.
We
It's
saw
not
it. It
enjoyable.
wasn't. It was all right. Like now that I've actually like thought about it completely,
Mhm.
like it was very enjoyable, but it wasn't worth like the time. I feel like.
Yeah, it was more of like a Redbox rental.
Yeah.
If people still do
Yeah.
that.
Exactly.
It had Jessica Chastain, so
Well, there. Yeah.
it was awful. There's this YouTube. I wish I could remember her name. There's this YouTube movie critic who hates Jessica Chastain, and she literally just shits on her in anything she's in. Like, she had a reaction video to the trailer, and she was like, and it's just like a still shot of Jessica Chastain. She's like, wow, she looks beautiful. The makeup's great. But she's so stupid. And then that's it. And then she
She's
just
so
moves
stupid.
on. Like, she just shits on Jessica Chastain, and that's like the content
She's
that
so
I sign up
stupid.
for.
She's so stupid.
So if any of you know what I'm talking about, it's I'll have to show you guys later.
Yeah.
She just literally hates Jessica Chastain, and like all of her like normal like she'll have reviews of movies, and like her normal movies that don't have Jessica Chastain have like you know like lower views, but then the ones that do have Jessica Chastain have like 500,000 views because it's just her
That's why
hating
people-
her.
And so that's why other people are watching it too, which is.
I feel like her name's Lauren or something. It's fun, but I feel like my favorite horror movies are more of, or like Halloween movies are more like the moody, like I mean, like the idea of like building the like the feeling of Halloween. Like I really love Crimson Peak. Anything by Guillermo del Toro is like a huge favorite of mine. So I think any of his stuff could honestly constitute like some kind of horror, at least thriller. So
Definitely.
and a lot of them are just they just take you there. He really I think is capable of like taking you to a whole new environment, which really makes me want to watch Scary Stories. I never saw that.
I wanted to see it when it was out. We missed it.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
But it could be a new favorite. Like jury's out, but
Right.
Guillermo's involved, so
So.
but I don't know if I have like quite the resume of like movies that you guys have.
Mhm.
But you know, that just shows that I'm a lazy ass bitch that
Well,
needs to catch
I
up.
mean-
But she's so stupid.
She looks amazing.
Hey,
but
shit.
she's so stupid.
Jessica Chastain.
One, I guess, to go back on traditions too, because that's one of the traditions is watching scary movies, watching Halloween movies. Decorating is a tradition. I would
Yes.
say we decorate like September 1st, like
Yep,
we mentioned
September
before
1st.
when you were here last. We go crazy.
All out.
We are currently surrounded
Uh-huh.
by so much
You
Halloween
can't
stuff.
look anywhere in our from our kitchen, dining room, and our living room. You can't see something that isn't Halloween related.
I can honestly attest to this. It's like every 5 centimeters there's a thing, and it's just all just like it's all really cute. It just it's perfectly enough. Like it's really I love coming here when you guys decorate because that really helps like put myself in the mood. And it just really brings
And that's
out
why we
the
like,
Halloween
and that's why we like to
spirit.
decorate because
Yeah.
it brings out that
It really like,
joy for us.
signals like the start of a holiday.
But I feel like, and it really kind of like helps you to get your money's worth for Halloween. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like, it's here and it's gone. So while it's here, we really gotta like,
Yeah.
we really gotta get them pumpkin spice lattes. We gotta go to Spirit, like we talked about jokingly before. Like we really gotta get our money's worth. Because it'll be gone and then we'll just be like, back to, was it Thanksgiving?
Right.
Great. Ugh. The worst. Get over
Exactly.
yourself, Thanksgiving.
It's true. And then having to go through a whole other year after like Halloween is always a bummer. And like you have to go through summer.
It's like
again.
that high, and then you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
The lull. The life lull.
Yep.
Anyway, we're all like trying to talk about like being all excited about it, and now I'm like, well, what about when it's over?
It's over. And it's,
Yeah.
Not the right
it'll-
perspective.
It comes so quickly and it's gone so fast.
Today's a gift. That's why they call it the present.
yes.
I cannot wait till December to say that line, so I'm doing it
I'm
now.
over it. I'm done. I quit the podcast. Again.
Yeah.
I feel like you threaten that every time, and I'm waiting for you to like
To actually
to do
to
it.
actually quit.
I'm like, all right, do it.
Well, this is our career, so.
We
Don't threaten me with a good time.
we go all out with our decoration. Obviously.
We decorate outside, too?
We decorate outside. Even Chief has Halloween toys.
He's orange.
Yeah, Chief is
We
Spray
dye
painted orange.
him
spray
orange.
painted orange.
No, God, no.
Please
we
don't
do
dye
that.
your dog's
But we-
colors, people.
But we do get him a little costume. It's usually something like, a bow tie, or we had a little, like, what is it, jester?
Kind of like a jester collar with like
Yeah.
little bells on
Yeah.
it. It's very cute. He has Halloween toys that he plays with. So yeah, it's amazing. One other thing we do as far as watching things goes, we like to watch episodes of shows that do special Halloween episodes because there's some shows that do like amazing Halloween stuff. Like The Simpsons always does Treehouse of Horrors.
Oh
which
yeah,
is
classic.
Awesome. The Office, I think, has a Halloween episode for almost every season.
Community had some bomb ass Halloween episodes.
Yeah, the Parks and Rec, Bob's Burgers, always
Yes,
does
the one
Halloween.
with the chainsaw wielding.
Yeah.
It was like a spider.
Yeah.
Spider chaining.
Yep.
It was a spider wielding chainsaw.
Yeah. And they all almost like every year do one. So we like to just watch all
Compile
Halloween
those.
episodes. Yeah, because they're
Yeah.
so
I think that's
fucking
cute.
cool.
Yeah.
And that's always fun. And they're always just again nostalgia and like good to watch again. And I don't know. And then we dress up on Halloween usually.
Yes.
And that's what we do. We try to make every special, the whole month special.
Is there anything about Halloween that you guys do not like Halloween faux pas? Like, do you see some things and you're just like, oh god, here we go? I think mine is the like, I don't know, like, I think couple costumes are the worst. No offense to, like, literally we talked about Javi and Maribel's like couple costume last time.
It wasn't.
Some of them are the
exactly
worst.
a
Yeah.
couple costume. It wasn't like a ketchup and mustard.
Yeah.
They were both Doctor Who, so it's not
Okay.
like, you know what I mean. So
one
they
was
were
one
each,
of the male doctors
yeah,
and the female doctors.
and so like they
Javi
were
was the
each their
female.
own thing. Yeah.
Gender bending. I love that. I was a Princess Mononoke. That's not her name. Her name is San. For anybody who's seen Princess Mononoke by Studio Ghibli, I was a gender bending San because I'm not pretty enough to actually just
Just
be
go for it.
to go for the her actual gender. But I do love that. But like what I mean by like faux pas, like, and I think maybe for me, I just have like a really negative opinion about everything. But I'm like, oh, what are you dressed up? And she's like, I'm a sexy tsunami.
Well, yeah,
and
I
I'm
was-
like, what?
I was definitely
is
gonna mention.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna mention. Like there were certain costumes I'm like just not down with.
Mhm.
Like that, like everything's sexy, and it's
Yeah.
like really like
yeah, like
she's like,
sexy
I'm-
girl costumes.
There's
Not that
no-
there's anything wrong.
no, like whatever, dress how you want, do what you want, but like I guess for me it's like there's no creativity there.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
I
that's what you
guess-
chose.
Yeah, and I guess it's a thing where it's like if that's the energy and the amount of effort you want to put into it, that's great. But it's not necessarily something I'm going to enjoy.
No,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, and I don't enjoy it.
Well, and on top
either.
of that, unless you're going to like a club or something for Halloween, you really want to be out in like 6-inch heels and a mini skirt all night with children.
Oh, just
running
read
around?
me.
Yes, I do.
Excuse me.
And there's only certain places that you could
I was a
run around
sexy
like
nanny
that
that
anyway.
year.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Well, it's true. Like,
Mhm.
just as a costume, I hate that. Like, it just there's no creativity, and it's just boring, and
Mhm.
like outplayed and
And it's
stupid.
and it's not saying like I mean it's more the idea like this is the day of the year. You
Yeah.
get to go all out.
Right.
Like push yourself.
Right.
Be better. But instead you're just
Right.
a sexy con round. Like
Exactly.
it's cool, but
It's cool, but
it's not my jam.
yeah, that. And then for me personally, there's other costumes I hate seeing, like Native American costumes. I hate
Oh.
seeing.
Let's
Like,
talk about that. My culture is not a costume.
and also the like Mexican costumes where it's like he's in a sombrero and has like
Mhm.
shots like as like a bullet belt, like a but
Yeah.
shots, and it's like
It's just and I mean
it's weird because it's like I get it, and in some way you're not wrong, but like I don't know if that's what we should be celebrating in that sense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's kind of like taking all the things that we have been discussing about what we really like about this and like
it's the
doing the
opposite.
opposite.
It's the opposite of creativity and like,
especially things that could be incredibly offensive, like
Yeah.
both of those costumes that you guys described.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it doesn't take a lot of effort to just be like, you know what? No,
right.
we're just I don't know.
Right, like,
We'll be a dead
why
person.
don't I
Right.
make a taco costume instead?
Mm-hmm.
Like, would be so much more creative and weird than
Yeah.
I would rather you be a sexy tsunami.
Yeah,
I
honestly,
still don't know
I
what that
definitely
means.
would prefer sexy over those costumes.
Yeah. Well, because like
anytime.
even when I see Native American costumes, it's like they're not. And maybe this might be slightly better if they're accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I see costumes, they are just a mismatch different Native American cultures all over, and they're not correct either. Because like they'll have feathers, they'll have like the headbands with the feathers. I'm like, you're in my culture at least. You don't wear feathers. You don't get feathers unless you have done something for an elder or someone that's, not sorry, I don't know the whole terminology, but someone that's better respected or well respected in the community gives you one. And those kinds of things are, I guess back in the day, you had to be a warrior
Yeah.
to earn feathers, so you should definitely not be wearing feathers in your hair as part of a Native American costume. So maybe if they were more historically accurate or even accurate today, maybe that would be a little better, but they don't even make sense.
Yeah, maybe if they're more representative versus just being
Right.
like a mockery.
Exactly.
And I think that's the point is, representing versus mocking.
Mhm.
And most of them are just mocking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also the idea of like cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. So I don't really know if we don't want to go into this. Is Halloween.
Yeah, we're not going to go
Right,
into
that's
that
But we
exactly.
are
That is
talking
a different
about
subject, but
talking about Halloween faux
Yeah.
pas, like what not to do. That's something not to do.
Yeah. And if you're going to do it, if you genuinely want to dress like a Native American or a Hispanic cowboy, Mexican cowboy, then do it, but do it how it would be, or do it
Mhm.
accurately or
Right.
correctly.
Well, this is something for me. It's like if I hate to put this stereotype out there, but I guess it is. If a white girl wanted to dress up as a Native American and do it right, I would almost be open to hearing from her.
Mhm.
Like, so how can I do this historically accurate, but that isn't offensive?
Mhm.
And like, I would love to have that conversation with someone before she went out, bought all these feathers, and put face paint on, in the shape of a hand, on her face. Like, I would love that.
Like, you're not an Orakai. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's not accurate.
So I would even love if people, wanting to talk to me about it. Like, so how do I, not mock your culture, but, want to have a little piece of it myself.
Right. Yeah, and then there's the whole thing that goes into it where it's like some of these for certain cultures are like my traditional garb is not a costume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't do that.
They're just
The
like,
thing. It's like
off limits.
right. This is not a costume.
Dress up as an alien.
Right. I mean, there's so many.
And
other
then
things.
we get invaded, they can tell us not to do it because they're.
And as far as that goes, like costumes, faux pas, some of the ones I also like. Wouldn't say I hate, but I just like roll my eyes. Like are like the super bro ones, or it's like we saw him even at Spirit this year. Like it's like I forgot what they are. He's like just has like a pizza box over his crotch or something like that.
Oh.
Or like there's some with literally an inflatable penis, like where it's underneath the costume and the person walking around in it just has a boner, like you know what I mean? And it's just like and like that could
So like novelty costumes.
Yeah, and with just the opposite of creativity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's funny, 'cause it can be, but it's more crass and like.
It's just not. It's not clever. It's not. It's not very interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I ordered the thin crust, so I don't. Not so hot and not so ready.
Exactly.
No, I hear what you're saying.
And it's
so
just like you could have
do
done
Halloween
better.
right. Like,
exactly.
be cute, be clever. Like, don't. Whatever. I mean.
And be creative.
Those men will
you can
exist.
go to Walmart. You can get all kinds of stuff. Make it yourself.
Well,
or go to Spirit.
go to
buy it.
Savers. Like, we love thrifting, and I don't even know if we've ever talked about that, but that's one of our like things we do an insane amount. I don't know if Jay loves it, but he's always forced to come with us.
Yes,
So we'll
he
say
is.
he loves it as well.
Yes.
We make him love it.
He loves it. He
We
knows
pump him full of
what?
food and sugar, and he's mostly content.
I'm like a child.
Yeah.
Like, he'll be happy if we at least feed him.
But there's so much fun stuff that you can do and you can find, and so if anything, we could just like put out there that energy to just go out and like try to do something that's fun. You only have one time during the year to do this. Like, put in some effort, put in some heart, put in some soul, and like live your best fantasy.
Right.
And don't like wear a pizza box over your dick, like because that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's what my suggestion would be like, I mean, if you can't make it, fine, like not everyone can sew and stuff like that, buy it, but like buy the best thing, you know what I mean, or like wear something that, first of all, that means something to you, that has some sort of meaning and that you like, put some creativity in it and some thought, and like some little heart, little soul, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about
On top. Yeah.
In general, that's what I feel like Halloween is all about, and that's. What
and the most we can do is to encourage somebody to do that.
Yeah.
If you want to do what you're gonna do it.
It's fine.
I'll talk shit about you though, for sure.
Like, I'll be, if you happen to turn around, I might be in the corner like.
I'll say it to your face.
Giving you some shade.
But anyway, fashion faux pas. I mean, I don't want to spend like an incredible amount of time on this because I don't want to put out like
It's
negative
not big,
energy.
and it's
but
still not a big deal. I'm not gonna
did I say
complain.
fashion faux pas?
Yes, you did.
I'm not gonna complain about someone's costume.
Yeah, I don't.
And I'm
at
not
the
gonna
end of
call.
it,
I'm not
it's
gonna
okay.
call anyone out. You know, if I do see them dressed as a Native American, you know,
Right.
it's not that big of a deal. This is just like my own personal opinion. When
Yeah.
I see it, when I hear about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you get to react how you feel you want to react.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to tell you how you get to react to those kind of
Yeah.
things. But like you have been talking about, Halloween's a magical time of the year, so appreciate it,
Yeah.
decorate, live it, just do the damn thing and have fun while you can, because around the corner we're eating turkey and we're listening to Christmas jingles.
Yep, and
Yep.
forced to spend time with family. And,
Not sexy.
yeah, opposite of sexy.
Not a sexy tsunami.
So a big part of Halloween, of course, is spooky stuff, scary stuff, spooky season. Ooh, a ghoulishly good time. So spookiness. Do we have any personal
That was
scary
incredible.
ghoulish?
I'm done.
Do we have?
We love some onomatopoeia.
Yeah.
Wait, no, alliteration. Excuse me. Dumb bitch over here. Me, sipping that dumb bitch juice.
Big. Oh man. A big thing about.
A big. What I
What
think my coworker is trying to. I actually don't know what you're trying to say.
A big part of Halloween is obviously spooky stuff, scary stuff, spooky season.
Spelled SZN.
Season.
Zoom.
Zin. Do we have any personal scary stories, spookiness that has happened to us in our lives?
I have a bunch of creepy shit that's happened to me.
All right, let's hear
And also
about
just
it.
me being the creepy shit.
Right.
You want me to start?
Yes,
Let me
you
clear
can
my.
start.
This is my moment. I was born on a blistery. I'm just kidding. That's it. Me being born. The scary story. So I had some interesting stuff happen to me when I was a child, and also growing up. So I guess what should I start off with? I guess when I was a child. That makes chronological sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a child, every year at a certain time of the year, I'm pretty sure you can even like measure it down to the week. It always landed around the same spot. I would have these episodes. My mom equated it to me having like a cold or the flu or something like that. But every now and then, I would have these out-of-body experiences.
Oh God.
So, and I would have these reoccurring dreams that were accompanied with them. So I believe there are about 3 or 4 dreams that I would have. One of them was that everything hurt to touch. So like even my hands hurt. Like it was like, it's like when you like your leg falls asleep, and then when it starts to like get more circulation, you feel that little, you know, that sensation of like all the needles like pricking your skin.
Yeah.
It was like that. So I would hold, and this is all while I'm asleep. I'm like sleepwalking and doing crazy things. I would hold my hands in front of my face and they would shake, and I would like try to touch things, but I would like pull away because of the sensation. So I remember that one. And then I also remember the sensation of everything being too far away from me to grab. So a lot of these were like sensory things.
Right.
So I would try to reach for things, or I would try to cuddle my like teddy bear, but it would be like a mile away.
Right.
Or my mom, who was laying right next to me, was 15 feet away, and like when I tried to like reach for her, there was like a void and I couldn't grasp her. I couldn't get near her. And there are other few dreams that I would have, but what actually would happen in my physical body the reaction was more or less the same. I would kind of be in a dream state where I was sleepwalking, and so I would just be having these dreams but actually acting them out in real life. So on my mom's side of the story, she would see me try to reach for her, grab her, or hold my hands in front of my face and see them shaking. Or there was one dream where I would just be running around the house. And I don't remember if I was screaming, but I do remember running around my house. And the reason why I say these were out-of-body experiences, because I recall seeing myself running around from an aerial point of view. I remember specifically I was visiting my grandma, who lived not too far from where we lived in Silver City, and I had one of these fever dreams, and I was running around the house, and I remember I could see myself, but I was up, and I knew exactly what part of the house I was at, because the next day I looked at the corner of the room and I was like, that's where I was, because the vantage point, that's where I could see. So I was where the wall met the roof in one of the corners, I was there, and I saw myself running down the hallway, back down the hallway, my grandma trying to chase me and trying to hold me still. And I would have these dreams every year growing up, and I would have these episodes. And I remember one day at church, we had to leave early because I fell asleep and I started having an episode where I was freaking out. And so my mom took me home, and I remember I was in the car just shaking, and my siblings didn't know what to do. And so I remember I would eventually fall asleep, but until I could fall asleep, I don't know how that worked. I was already asleep, and then I was I guess it was I eventually would calm down, and my mind would calm down, and I would just be in a zone where I wasn't doing anything. And I would wake up the next morning, and the thing was, my parents didn't really know what was going on. They kind of attributed it to me playing Zelda at a friend's house, or an original Disney movie that I watched at my grandma's. There is a one called Return to something mountain, Witch Mountain or something, where their hands would glow or something, and my mom thought that that's where I got the hand thing from. So they would attribute it to they literally, I'm almost sure they thought I was possessed.
Jeez.
Oh my God.
And that there was something wrong with me, and that all these worldly things were affecting me. I would ask my siblings about it, and they would be like, well, we weren't allowed in the room when that was happening. They would shut the door. And so
physically, in reality, not in dream, you would have reactions? Is that...
So, I would be in this weird state, I think, between being awake and being asleep.
Whoa.
Where I could see my mom, but it was through this lens.
Right.
There was this... It was I was awake, but there was a barrier that was affecting my reality.
Whoa.
And the one that freaked me out the most, that freaks me out when I think about it, is the one where I could actually, I was outside and I could see me running around, like a body without a soul in it, just moving around, not really responding to any kind of voices or stimulation. I was just it was like an empty shell, just trying to find something.
Yeah.
Potentially and so I've tried to do research. There's some things called, I believe they're called the blue children, and it's research that was done on children that had special abilities and stuff like that. I don't want to speak too much on that because I'm not too well aware of what it is, but it always would go into a little bit of a realm where I'm I don't really know if I believe in this. But the weird thing was that I remember growing older. As I got older, I could feel the sensation of having one of those dreams. The one that I had the most was where objects started getting elongated and getting far away from me. I had this sense that I could feel it happening. And so I would close my eyes and I would chant until I fell asleep. I would close my eyes as hard as I could. I'd be like, go to bed, 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 go to bed. And eventually I would fall asleep. So it's kind of like I literally trained my body not how to have these dreams.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of weird for me now because I think back on these like occasions and I'm like, well, if it was a sickness, if I was having fever dreams, I wouldn't be able to chant myself out of a fever.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't break my fever, like scientifically, you know, like.
Yep.
So that's why I have like I'm not like excluding that idea because I've told a lot of people and it depends on their personality or what they believe in, whether like, oh, that was just a dream. Like I've had some of those and I'm like, okay, but did they reoccur every year around the same time? And did you feel them coming on when you were older and you literally had to chant yourself out of it?
Right.
And I was like, no. I was like, so I have there's a lot of mystery that is surrounding these kind of like events that went around. And I think that along with like the incredibly religious environment I was in was not great. Like my mom probably thought I was a child of the devil and I was like, well, in some ways you're right. I am. But like it was
I guess and just so I understand, and sorry if you mentioned it or like explained it already, when this was happening from like your mom's point of view, your dad's point of view, you were physically having a reaction, like
yes,
you'd be in their bed like shaking or doing
I was
something?
up reaching for things.
What the hell?
Like this wasn't a dream. Like it was like a dream, like dream walking. What sleepwalking.
Right.
Yeah.
I was up. My eyes were open. And I was trying to reach for things or trying to touch my mom. Like trying to grab her face was something I tried to do. Was like I would like reach for her face and my hands would be shaking and that freaked her out. Poor lady.
Yeah. But then from your point of view, everything was like far
from my
away.
point of
You're
view,
in this weird dream.
Yes,
place.
this weird state of like I said, like that lens where I couldn't receive reality like I normally would. So I was not asleep or awake.
Right.
And so from their perspective, it was just, it was me doing physical things and like squirming and like freaking out and crying and my hand shaking and it very much so like these really episodes and they didn't know what to do. And so they would just close the door and then just try to calm me down until I would eventually like pass out from exhaustion or just from sleep. And so it was a really weird thing to grow up, and it was also kind of terrifying when that season came around. I was like, oh,
around what time was it?
I want to say it was during the springtime.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it was a really weird time of the year. It wasn't like during the summer
or like spooky season.
No.
Right.
Yeah, it didn't coincide with anything like
Scary.
special. It was just it was like in June. Wow. It was like a weird time of the year where like you get like those summer colds, which is what they like oh, you're just getting like a summer cold or something like that. And that didn't ever really make sense to me. And so I've always just kind of questioned it, like did I really have these experiences? Like, were these dreams? But I know they were real because I've talked to my parents about them. My parents they don't really talk about it because I don't think it affected them as much as it affected me, or at least they like present that it didn't, you know? But for me, it's always been a mystery. Like, why did I go through all those things? Like, it was really weird. And the one that, I mean, I've done some research on astral projection, and that's really the thing that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
Was that memory of seeing myself run around and me being from a higher elevation from some way, like looking down on my body.
Right.
I specifically remember that. So it's always been kind of creepy to think about it and to like reminisce. And I remember I was watching the movie with Keanu Reeves and he hunts demons, Constantine.
Oh, yeah.
Constantine. And one of the characters in the movies, her twin and her could see demons. And when she grew older, she taught herself how to not see these demons, whereas her sister didn't. And that's like one of the plot lines of the movie. And that reminded me growing up, teaching myself not to have these kinds of like these kinds of like dreams in this state.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it also, like, that will lead to, like, the idea that children and, like, animals can see things that adults cannot. They can see, like, and you, like, I think there's even some Netflix series about, like, children that are like, oh, the lady in the closet told me this, or that, like, these imaginary friends, like, creepy stories you hear about these children who can see, like, the supernatural, that they don't have the filters that we have as adults that are like, oh, this is real, that's not real,
Right.
that have been taught to us. And like when dogs stare into corners, or when one of my cats will just stare in a corner and his eyes will dilate, and I'm like, the devil is here. I hope he makes himself comfortable, have fun. But I'm going to bed because it's late. I got an early day.
Yeah.
So that is probably the weirdest thing that has happened to me in my youth.
When that stuff would happen, would you ever see anything else, or like see other things, or
I don't
was
really.
it always just like you, or what was far from you?
I think if there was anything else to see, I was too young and too like traumatized to see. Like there's too much stimulation going on.
Right.
Like there was always something that was happening with me physically that I couldn't really focus on any of the surroundings. It always kept my attention at my hands or trying to grab something. It was always I want to say a distraction. So if there's anything to see, I don't recall seeing it. But again, who knows how much of these things that I remember.
Right.
Remember seeing or not seeing. Well,
Yeah.
you know, but that was the weirdest thing that's happened to me. It's still a mystery for me, and something that I think about every so often. Just like, oh shit, remember when that happened to you when you were a child,
Right.
and there was no like
No
there was no
legitimate explanation.
yeah,
to that?
there was no resolution, no answers.
Yeah, that was never solved. Was
No.
it?
Oh boy.
Wow, that's intense.
Have you had
That's-
anything like this now? Or like more recently?
I remember the most recent time where I felt that sensation was when I got drunk. I got drunk one night and I felt that sensation of things starting to like, literally it's like the gravity started, like it's like as if things started getting dragged and slowed down, and things started getting further and further and further away from me.
Yeah.
And I felt it one night when I got drunk, and I want to say it was probably like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, back when I really used to drink and party. I felt that sensation, and it freaked me out, because it's like one of those things that you don't realize you'll never forget it.
Right.
But it hasn't happened in such a long time that you did. But then once it happened, all of these memories came flooding back. Like, as soon as I started feeling that way, I was like, fuck, you know? And I started chanting. So, that was crazy, though, that in order to get to that state, I had to be inebriated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
in some way you had some barriers down, maybe, or something, so that you were...
yeah, there was a show called Fringe on, I think it was NBC. It was a pretty good show for the first couple of seasons. But it was about this lady who could, like, I honestly don't remember, but I feel like she was like psychic and she could see things, but she had to go into like a sensory deprivation tank in order to have those sensations, and she had to be like on some type of drug or something like that. And so I was like, should I do drugs and go to a sensory deprivation tank? Probably not.
Probably not.
Only you
Only you
can
can prevent forced
drug
drugs.
abuse.
Right.
Thank
There.
you,
That's
thank you,
accurate.
sexy lion.
Oh, God.
But always disappointing. But that was the weirdest thing that's happened to me. However, since then I have had experiences with the paranormal, which, do you guys want to hear about it?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
You want to hear my
Yes.
ghost stories?
Yes.
Okay, so it's funny because I'm pretty sure that there was. Do you guys believe in like spirits, ghosts?
Yeah.
Although I don't have any specifically like paranormal experiences, I'm open to it,
Mm-hmm.
but I never have.
Yeah, same here. I don't have really maybe one like kind of event, but nothing like big or like that notable. But I don't want to necessarily have one, but I want to believe. You know what I mean?
Ooh, X-Files.
Yes.
Classic. So I have about like 3 ghosts. Well, I have one that could have happened, one that definitely happened, and one that was maybe like a wild animal that tried to kill me.
Yes.
Or a vengeful spirit.
Yeah.
That bitch was jealous.
Yes.
Yes.
She's jealous of me.
Please go on.
Anyway. So I remember the one that's like the easiest to tell is I worked at a restaurant called the Red Barn that was shaped like a ginormous red barn. I worked there during high school with a couple of our friends. A good old Red Barn. I remember one day I was going from the walk-in fridge to the walk-in freezer. And I remember when I opened the door and like flung it open, I saw a child in the corner of the fridge, like a full child. And it wasn't like a peripheral thing. Like the way my eyes were looking, I was already looking in the corner. And then when I like glanced slightly to go to the handle and like swing it open and I glanced back, he was there. And then I stopped breathing for a second, and then the door was like, it would slam shut automatically.
It closes by itself.
Yeah, so I flung it open to go inside, but when I didn't move, the door just shut really loudly, and there was nothing there. But I specifically remember a little boy just staring at me.
I don't think I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
It was a little boy.
Yeah, it was a little boy, and like the thing that was kind of lame is that he looked like he was cold. Like obviously like ghosts, like the idea of it is they're dead and stuff, but he looked like he was shivering as he looked like as we were in the walk-in fridge. So it could have been it could have been it was a really long day. That's the only one where it was just like it was split second, and it could have just been like perception, mind games. But that's pretty creepy. I did not go back in that fridge for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
My second story is actually during we had church twice every Sunday. So we would have it in the morning and the evening, and then in between my parents would normally we would go for lunch, and then they would go to Walmart and do some shopping. But whenever I started driving, I got a little bit more I had a little bit more free will. So I remember one Sunday after church, they went to Walmart and I drove home. Oh shit, there's 2 stories that happened. Oh, okay. Well, the first one is I drove home and I went to go take a nap. We had a bunk bed because me and my brother used to share a room growing up, but he was gone. I believe he was already going on to college. So I was sleeping on the bottom bunk, and I remember my dad would sometimes get on the top bunk to sleep because he'd snore and it would bother my mom, and she would always tell him to go to the other room because bothering me was much better.
Yeah.
Right.
But I remember I was woken up by snoring, and when I woke up, I was in a daze, and I still heard the snoring. I heard literally my dad snoring, and what I would normally do is I would hit the top bunk and I'd be like, "Dad, you need to move," because that was when he was on his back, because he would read a book, fall asleep, and start snoring. But when he moved on his side, he wouldn't snore so loud.
Yeah.
So I heard his loud snoring, so I hit the bed, and I was like, "Dad, move. You need to,
turn over."
Yeah.
turn over." And then after I hit it, and then the noise stopped. And then I was like, hold up. I was like, did my mom and my dad get back from Walmart?
Right.
And so I turn and I look outside the window, and their car's still gone. I jumped out of the bed and jumped out to look at the top bunk, and there's nothing there.
Oh my god.
But I specifically
That one gave me
remember.
chills.
Yeah.
I specifically remember after I woke up, I heard the snoring.
It wasn't
It's not like I woke up.
or you were snoring and it woke you up.
Yeah,
You woke up and still heard it.
I woke up because of it and then heard it again. So the second time that happened, it happened 2 times to me. And that's why I think there was maybe a little bit of a spirit or something that was playing tricks on me during these times. The second time was when the same situation happened. I think this time I actually didn't go to church because I wasn't, I don't know, I would make excuses where I'd be like, I'm not feeling good or something like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I was fine.
You just didn't
Yeah.
want to go.
So I remember I didn't go to church that morning, and I was taking a nap. This time, the thing that woke me up was my mom's piano. So my mom had a grand piano, not a grand piano, but a large piano that was in the living room that she used to practice her hymns on. And Jay can attest to this because when we were young, my mom would practice and we would jam out to it.
We would like, dance and stuff.
We made up some like bomb ass dancing routines, which red flag.
Let's be honest.
I was like,
Red
Howell,
flag.
is that a full? I was like, Jay, is that a full pirouette? I don't think so. We rehearsed this on the count of 3.
What?
I'm so sorry. Every time, everybody knows our names.
No, it's
Come find us. But so my mom would practice her hymns, and a lot of times she would practice her hymns during that period of time between night and evening services. So I remember I was asleep again, but this time I was awoken by one of my favorite songs that she would play. So it was literally the same situation. I woke up and I still heard it being played. And the same realization, I think because the first time happened to me with the snoring, this happened again, and I was like, and my breath stopped. I turned by the window, which was right by my bed. The car was gone.
oh my god.
And I ran into the living room. I ran over into the living room, empty. So 2 separate occasions where something was playing a trick on me that I heard after I woke up. Wow. It was quite creepy, and it was funny that it would happen during Sunday when I was by myself.
Yeah.
So this one I don't really attribute to mind games or like, oh, maybe I was just seeing things because I heard them.
It's like pretty distinct.
Yeah.
I heard them, and I know what my dad's snore sounds like, however weird that may sound. I know what that song my mom was playing is my favorite song since I was a child, and she would play it for me every so often. And I remember hearing it. I don't know, those, and this is all during the daytime too. This is not at night. The creepy shit happened to me during the daytime.
Which is worse somehow.
Those are my stories.
When those would happen, did you leave? Did you remember? What would you do after?
I think I would. I think I would go outside, and I would I definitely wouldn't go back to bed.
Yeah.
I don't remember specifically what I would do because we didn't have a lot to do at home. So I would occupy myself with doing something. Like if I went outside and took my dog on a walk or played my Nintendo, I definitely would go into a different space
yourself,
and would do that until my parents would come home. And then I would feel comfortable enough to maybe go back to, I love napping. So maybe I would, after they got back, which I didn't tell them this because I knew that they would just be like, oh, you were just asleep, because they didn't believe in that type of stuff. So but those are the creepiest things that have happened to me. I did have one where I was I went out into the middle of a field and I heard noises, and it was after I had a fight with my parents. And so we live in a trailer that's on a plot of land that has 7 acres. So I remember one night I got an argument with them, and I went outside and I had my headphones in. I was listening to some really angsty music, like Evanescence or something. And I remember I heard rustling, and it was this pitch black out, and my eyes were slightly adjusted, but I remember it was overcast, of course. So I took off my headphones and I paused my CD player, which you can tell how old this story is.
Yeah.
And I heard the rustling come towards me, and something had told me something inside was fight or flight. And I was not about to fight. So we flied. And I just ran for it. And that thing in that field chased me the entire way back to my house. My house, which was surrounded by dogs, because we had dogs everywhere growing up. All of the dogs were cowering and not barking. And they barked at everything. They were all in their kennels and stuff when I ran past. And the entire time I felt this thing at the the heels of my feet chasing me the entire way back home. I felt something behind me, the rustling. I literally felt like the hot breath. Until I ran inside and I was fucking crying and like freaking out, and my mom was like, "What's the matter?" And like I had to calm down and tell them what happened to me. And then I guess like a few days later there had been some like sightings of like a mountain lion in the area. So I don't know if something was fucking with me. If it was a mountain lion, it could have been a javelina, because the javelinas were pretty vicious in Silver, or it could have been a devil.
Oh my goodness.
Which is scary.
TBD.
Exactly. Which
Insert
is scary.
like really creepy music here.
Oh yes.
Ooh.
Yes, we're gonna.
That's
do that.
scary in
We're
its
gonna
own
do
right,
that.
whether it's like a wild animal or like there was
Because I
something.
mean that happens where you guys live too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It does. People get
So-
killed by mountain lions.
Those are my like creepier
Ooh.
stories and life stories. I just talked a lot.
That was cool, man. There's something I didn't hear, which was crazy. It's just spooky,
The little
like-
boy.
Mm-hmm. Did you tell anyone about that one?
No, I didn't tell anybody.
Was there
None of these I told any. I didn't tell
Yeah.
anybody these.
That's crazy. Was there, as far as Red Barn goes, was there anyone else that had stories, or like, was there ever?
I don't think so,
Really?
and I don't think I ever, because I didn't really. I talked to people, but it was on their conversation.
Right.
So I never brought it up. So I
Mhm.
don't recall anybody telling me any creepy story, but it was a really creepy place.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely was an eerie place, which they demolished
Yeah.
and replaced with the Denny's. So
Of course.
maybe I'll go ask a Denny's worker, like, hey, have you seen a ghost boy?
In your fridge, yeah.
It's my boy.
Right. Because I wonder
We're
if
tight.
any other past employees have
Saw.
any similar stories like that. Because that would.
Yeah. But it's funny, the plot that our trailer sits on is where my dad's childhood home was before it burned down.
Wow, I
didn't know I
that.
had-
You didn't know that?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, my grandparents, because you know where my grandma's house is, right?
The
On
one
Hill
that was
Street.
in town, yeah.
Yeah, so before that town, that's a huge house, but like before that, they had a house out on the plot of land that they gave my parents, which burned to the ground.
Whoa.
Oh my
And then before we could move the trailer on there, we had to like re-level it and take out all the like broken glass and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's even a shed in the back that's the only remaining thing from that burned down house.
Crazy.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know if there, even before we moved our trailer there was something that would fuck with the people who lived on it. So
Right.
I would ask my mom and dad if anything weird has happened to them, but
Right. They might.
they
just...
they
Who knows
wouldn't.
what they
I don't
would
think they
say,
respond.
Yeah.
But my sister specifically, I think it was my sister, and she's actually, I don't know if it was there or here in Cruces, but she's told me certain times where she felt like she was being watched. Like she had that like there's somebody in the room
Yeah.
Yeah.
sensation.
Yeah.
So those are my stories.
Ooh,
Oh my
that's
goodness.
great.
My fun stories.
See, I don't have anything really like that.
Do you have anything?
I have two. So one, and this is maybe it's pretty normal, but when I was younger, my mom and my dad decided it was a good idea to get a little fox as a pet.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a wild animal. You're not supposed to have foxes. Like there's laws against it, but they thought it was a great idea. Now we had, I think at the time, maybe like 4 really big German shepherds. And so I'm, even as a kid, thinking, how is this fox not going to die?
Yeah.
Well,
Fox and the Hound.
yeah.
We all know
Well,
how well that
Yeah,
is.
well, as fate would have it, and I don't remember hearing it, I don't remember what happened, but the fox was killed. And we think that one of the dogs, like, either killed it or gave it a heart attack. And I don't remember again, I was a little kid, I had to have been no older than 6. Like, we woke up, or I woke up to my mom screaming because the fox is dead in the middle of our kitchen. And there's blood underneath him, but there was like no wounds or anything. So again, we don't quite know how the fox died. Well, of course, like my mom and I both have this thing with, because we have a lot of pets, we always find them dead. You know, it happens. But we have this thing with dead bodies, so my mom threw a blanket over it. My brother had to come and like take him out and bury him. So I think either that night or the night after, I had this weird dream. And I always have weird dreams that might not seem scary, but to me, they turn into nightmares. So I'm a little girl, and obviously finding out what death is, and I'm thinking about this dead fox, and I have, you know, that screensaver that used to like be all these like colored like lines that used to like form like the snakes. It started in those, and it started forming the shape of a fox over and over and over again. And now again, like I said, like that might not sound scary, but for some reason in the moment, that was terrifying. That these lines are just forming like this fox shape. I was a little kid, like that was a nightmare. Those are my nightmares.
Yeah.
They're not like zombies or monsters chasing me or anything.
They're
No,
screensavers.
yeah, they're screensavers.
That's terrifying though. Like the spirit was still there, just like trying to tell you a message. Who murdered the fox?
Right. So that was one that I can remember. The second one, again, you don't think that these are nightmares, but they terrify the shit out of me. But I talk in my sleep and I sleepwalk. And this has been, documented through my childhood. I remember being a little girl, like 5-6 years old, and sleepwalking, and talking in my sleep. And that happened one time where, like, I thought I was awake. And it seemed like I was awake, but yeah, I was kind of in that weird dream state where, I'm awake, but I don't know, like, it was just weird. And I remember kind of waking up in my bed, I'm not moving, and I'm thinking, like, okay, this is weird, because everything had a hue over it. It was all blue. And the windows in my bedroom were open, and the wind was blowing. And I had these blue curtains, but they were, And then all of a sudden, like, I remember hearing my name, and it was really soft at first. It was like a whisper, and it got louder, and I just heard my name over and over and over again. Rachel, 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 and I don't know. And then that's when I realized it. Like, you're dreaming, or you're like, it is pitch black outside. It is not the middle of the day. Nothing in this room is blue, and who the hell would be calling your name? And I think then I woke up. And then that's, like, when I realized it, that I'm still in my bed. And
but there was nobody in there who could have been saying your name.
No,
like,
there should have been nobody calling me. There should have been no one in the house awake. Nothing like that. And then, like, I remember hearing, like, stories now of, like, Wendigos, and that's how they'll get you, is they'll call your name softly like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, did that specifically happen when you were young, too?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So that's the one that I really remember that, like, freaked me out as a kid. And it's still so vivid in my mind. And, thinking about, like, growing up in the middle of the woods and, Wendigos being spirits that would take people and eat them. Yeah. That would have been so real as a kid. So, like, I remember little things like that.
Yeah.
And dreams like that.
Yeah.
What a sexy moment.
So sexy.
Jay, any stories?
Oh boy. I have a couple, and now, like, hearing yours and hearing Rabbit's, like, more things start coming to mind. Ever since I was little, and I think it's actually a thing. I think it's called, like, hypersensitivity or something like that. So I'm like even today, and I don't talk about this a lot, but, like, I'm, like, sensitive to certain things, like a lot of electrical stuff. Like, if something has bad wiring, I can hear it buzzing when no one else can hear it buzzing. Or, like I used to have a phone charger that when my phone would get to, like, 98%, I would start hearing it buzzing, like, the charger itself. Like, every time, 98, it would start buzzing, and, like, no one else would hear these things. So I'd always have weird things like that, but apparently, like, being hypersensitive can mean you're sensitive to other things too. So, like, supernatural things or whatever, things you can't see. And I was always like that as a kid. So I was always like a very nervous kid, like we've talked about, afraid of a lot of things. But then coupled with that, like religious Catholic, like demons and going to hell and all that shit too. You know what I mean? On top of having like a crazy imagination. So it was like a bunch of stuff mixed together. But some of the crazy things I remember, or like, they weren't that crazy, but I've had spooky dreams. The earliest one I remember having sleep paralysis for like the longest time, like even when I was a kid, like sleeping and not being able to move and feeling it and can't do anything, like since I was little. It still happens to me today. Last time it happened to me was a few weeks ago. But when I was a kid, the vivid one I remember was like I would always go see my parents. When they would wake up, they would like go to the kitchen. It would be on like a weekday. They would go to the kitchen, drink coffee together. It would be like really early, before they had to get ready for work. And I would always, as soon as I heard them up, I would wake up and walk down like the dark hallway and go see them. The hallway had a nightlight, and in the dream, I guess it was I woke up because I heard them. So I got up and I was walking down the hallway, and like I was stopped by these two. They're like people, because they looked like people, but they didn't look like you and me. They, as cliche as it is, they looked like ghosts, kind of.
Right.
But like, and they like stopped me, and they're like making fun of me. They're like mocking me, like and like laughing at me, and I just got scared. So I like was kind of cowering, and they're like looking above me, and I was trying to call for my mom and dad because they're right down the hallway, but I couldn't because I couldn't. I got the sleep paralysis, so I couldn't call, and I was like trying to go like mom, and they're like mocking me. They're like mom, like, and like laughing at me, and it was just the light from the it was just the light from the nightlight in the hallway, and that and them just looking down at me, and they're like. They were mean looking. I don't know how else to explain it. They weren't human, like a nice human. They were like, they looked bad. You know what I mean? They looked like villains or something bad. What's fucked up, and the best way I can describe it is they look like the bad spirits in like Insidious or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They look bad.
Like me on a Friday after a long week.
Exactly. It just looked so terrible. And
the worst.
And then I woke up, and I was in my bed, and I was like, you know, happy to be awake, of course.
Yeah.
And my parents were awake down in the kitchen, just like in the dream. And I was like, wait, was I like almost kind of like with you? Was I like out of body, walking to see my parents? And there's other things around me that saw me and wanted to pick on me, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was super weird and spooky. But either way, dream or not, like nightmare or not, I've always had dreams like that since I was a kid, and like sleep paralysis and stuff like that. A lot of them eventually ended up dealing with like demons trying to get me in my sleep and stuff like that. And of course with that, not knowing if that was just my brain or if it was something else. And always fighting it, always like fighting it, like ridiculous, like feeling it, and me like yelling at them in my dream, like you can't get me, like no, and like and then like waking up, and there's just always some weird struggle. And sometimes as a kid during those moments, like I felt like probably like you felt around that time when spring would start, like I felt a lot of times as a kid, like I had a dark cloud over my head, like there was something always there, you know what I mean, like following me around or like above me, just like something bad was always around me. It always felt like and not that bad things would happen to me, but it was just like having like just like that dark shadow in the corner always kind of like there. That's how I always felt. It was so weird. Eventually I guess I grew out of it, because I would still get sleep paralysis as like a teenager and stuff, but nothing that I couldn't just be like, it was a dream, like whatever, you know what I mean, like that sucked, but whatever, you know what I mean. And I always had like kind of like weird things like in dreams that would happen to me, and then I guess from there, as far as like spooky or supernatural things go, the most relevant story I had, or like the one that like was like weird for me, was I was in college, so we were here, and it was when my parents had their house here, that me and my brother just lived in, and my mom was visiting in town. She was like seeing her sisters, and then her and I were gonna go to a movie together, and she was behind me, and I was walking. I had a coat on because it was kind of cold, and we were leaving the house, and I turned to turn off the light behind us because we forgot to turn it off, and so I reached past her, and I hit the light switch, and I felt like on my arm, it felt like cobwebs, like on my arm as I did that, and I was like, and then my mom stopped, like, she was like, what's wrong? Because she saw me like messing with my arm, like trying to wipe it off because I felt it, but it was weird that I felt it through my jacket.
Yeah.
And it was weird because around that time I've always been into like Ghost Hunters, like that show, and like all that stuff. I've really been into it. So like one thing that paranormal people say is that a phenomenon when you like touch a spirit or feel something like that, it feels like cobwebs like clinging onto you. I felt that, and I kept the light turned off, and I was just like, and I didn't say anything to my mom. I was just like, nothing. I don't know, that was weird. And then we just left, and I just like didn't say anything, but that was really strange. And then the next day, I saw my mom, and we were talking, and she was like, and this isn't super spooky given what my mom said. She was like, yesterday I really felt your grandpa with me all day yesterday, and he had that during that time he had recently died, and I was like, and I kind of paused, and I was like,
Yeah.
did you, when we were like at the house leaving to go see the movie, did you feel him then? And she's like, no, not then. I was like, okay. And then I didn't say anything.
Because I did.
He was like,
visited me during that time.
yeah, me neither. But it's just that whole thing where like her mentioning that and me not saying anything about what I felt, and then like like this weird like
connection.
Connection.
Made sense.
I tried to think about it logically or try to disprove what I felt, but like I know what I felt.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a hair or something like that because I was wearing a jacket.
Yeah.
So you can't feel like if a hair is on your jacket, you can't feel it. If cobwebs are on your jacket, unless they're pretty heavy, you can't really feel that pulling on you. But it was like it didn't matter what I was wearing. I felt just cling on me, just like pulling down, and
over like a large area.
Yeah, exactly. Like
hair
all
would
over
be
my
like,
forearm.
Yeah.
Like hair would be a precise place, but
and it was in like when I was turning off the light, which is a commonly used light switch. It was for the hallway, so it's not like it was dirty or there was cobwebs around that.
Yeah.
So it was weird.
Oh,
it was just really strange, and I was like,
a good ghost, a good grandpa ghost.
Well, I mean,
exactly.
your mom and even some of her sisters, and I think cousins too, they all describe some sort of like paranormal experience.
It's really weird. Like my mom's side of the family, and whether you believe in it or not, is like really in tune to that thing.
Yeah.
I have two aunts. I have one aunt who like goes ghost investigating, but I have two aunts and a cousin who like will readily tell you that they see ghosts and spirits, and
they have
believe it and see them and have
and they
experiences with them, like that. Like I see ghosts.
And your brother, I think has just one story that I've heard.
Yeah.
About having like a beer with your grandpa or something.
Yeah, and so if there's anything with that, that's probably where it comes from with me. The hypersensitivity, but also the, like, what they talk about and what some people have talked about too is that anyone can feel these things, anyone can see these things, anyone can experience these things, but most of the time we kind of block it. Like, most people just put up that wall. Because they don't want to see it, they don't want to believe in it, whatever it is. You know what I mean? They don't want that.
It's like visualizing
exactly.
a world without that kind of
Exactly.
stuff, because it's easier.
Exactly. So like that doesn't exist. I can't see that stuff. But if you just probably just allow yourself to, you probably can. And that's what they've always told me. And for me, even as a kid, like I said, feeling that dark cloud following me or whatever, like I always felt like I was like right on that border of either just like allowing and just going into it and allowing myself to see all these things and stuff, but being way too scared to want to.
Yeah.
But then from then on, always having weird feelings and experiences and things, sensations and all that stuff, to where it's always still kind of with me.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't even know if this is a part of it, but like deja vus, I always have deja vus.
Yeah,
like,
those are fun.
Constantly have, and I've had intense deja vus where not like, oh, I think this has happened before, this is familiar.
Like
Like I've had one when it was in Wisconsin, and I was working my first job in Wisconsin, and here's a connection. I was in the refrigerator. But,
holy shit.
no,
There it is.
but I was in the drink cooler at my job, and I was in the corner like stocking drinks, and then it like hit me, and I was like, I've been here before.
You've done this.
And I was like, there's no way I've done this. I've never been to fucking Wisconsin before. I've never had a job before. There's no way I've done this before. And then I was like, I've done this before. This is weird. And then my thoughts were the same, where like I'd think something, and then in my head, I'd have like almost two voices going on, like two trains of thoughts, because one would be what I was thinking in the deja vu, and the other one would be like telling me what's coming next. Oh, and then you're gonna think this, and then it would happen, and everything was the same. Like, so like ones that are like really intense like that, where it's like there's
like
no
mechanical,
way. Exactly.
Where like a response from a person triggers something while you're turning on the hot water, and you're like, I was turning on this hot, like something so specific,
extremely specific. Not like because there's some where it's like a little too familiar.
Yeah.
But there's somewhere it's like there's no way this has happened before,
Yeah.
and this is so I've had stuff like that too, and I always have.
Yeah.
So I feel like if anyone's prone to it, I guess I am, and maybe my side of the family is, because my mom is too. She has stories too, but she doesn't like talking about them.
Yeah.
So it's always.
I kind of want to
Kind
get
of
those
been
stories out of like those.
I know.
This generation, or like have one of your aunts on and be like, tell us your
I
stories.
think we should. We should
'Cause
try.
it's
We
like-
should try to do that, and they might be
Also-
into it because, like, your mom is a little. No offense, I love your mom, but she's a little more uptight about those kinds of things. I think if we could get one of your aunts, she would be really open to talking about it.
Yeah.
Especially like on this kind of platform. I think she'd really like that.
I've always. Yeah, and not that it's just me or like. There's a gift or something. I think everyone can. I think obviously we've all been touched by something like
and
that.
I was gonna say that I feel like a lot of our I feel like a lot of our experiences are dream or sleep related. And I don't want to make this too long because this should almost be its own theme, like where that's all we talk about. But I was gonna say a lot of experience that I've had have been in dreams.
Yeah.
When my grandpa passed away, and maybe this is just normal because you're in the mourning process, you're in the grieving process. But the night after I saw him, because we had to go to the funeral home, we had to start making the arrangements, and I actually got to see him. It was the last time that I'd ever see him because we cremated him. I had a dream where it was all black. And we were all just kind of essences. So if you could just imagine like a little blue ball of light. And I remember, of course, like crying and feeling sad. And then suddenly knowing that I'm looking at my grandpa's essence and then realizing he's lost. He's gone. And just thinking about that, like, how messed up is that? Because he was very Christian, and he wanted to, he didn't want to be cremated. He wanted to go to heaven. That's what he believed. But I don't know, and just like having this dream where my grandpa is wandering and lost, and he's gone forever, and he's nowhere now. That freaked me out. And I mean, of course, like I was home, like I was back in like my mom's house, and this is all so fresh, and I feel like that was almost like a sign that, maybe necessarily, heaven and hell don't exist. but my grandpa's essence is now out there. And so, and I know, like, maybe that's just a normal grieving process, you know. But, I mean, how weird was that? How weird is that? And, you know, for me, I've always
Fucking
had...
weird. So weird!
I've always had such vivid foreshadowing, or, like, what's that other word? Like, not foreshadowing, but...
What dreams?
No, I'm trying to think of a word. I can't think of it right now. Like,
Is it like foreshadowing?
kind of metaphorical. Like, dreams were like, if I'm looking for an answer, if I need the answer to something, I'll receive it in a dream. And maybe that's like psychic, and that's a whole different like part of what we're talking about. But, like, you know, when my dad texted me, I haven't spoken to my father in years. He texted me, you know, saying, oh, he misses me and whatever. You know, I was trying to find the answer of what I wanted to do. If I wanted to try to have a relationship with him, if I wanted to talk to him. 3 days later, I had such a powerful, vivid dream. You know, I was in my childhood home where he still lives, and walking into the living room and seeing him sleeping, getting up, putting his shoes on, and such an iconic, like, shot that even my mom remembers of how he used to put his socks and shoes on. And then trying to talk to him, he's like, okay, sweetie, where do you want to go for lunch or dinner? And I was like, oh, Dad, I don't know. Like, and then all of a sudden him getting mad and angry and, you know, kind of going into a tirade like he used to when I was younger to, like, my mom or something. And walking out the door and, like, you know, me, like, kind of running after him, like, Dad, no, wait, like, I just want to, you know, do this or this. He's like, no, whatever. Getting in his truck and leaving. Me standing on the porch, and then this huge, like, we used to live next to a swamp, and this swamp just, like, overflowing and raising. And all of a sudden, like, destroying the whole porch. And me, like, drowning in it. How is that not an answer? And I decided not to talk to my dad, because, like, 3 days later I have that dream. So I feel like for me that if any paranormal, any psychic, any type of thing, you know, happens, I feel like for me it happens in dreams.
Yeah.
She dreams the future.
I mean, like I said, I mean, everyone's can get to that point and see stuff, or maybe not. And I think in some weird way we have all been touched on it, because it's also weird that we've all had these when we were younger too. A lot of the more relevant stuff. It's crazy, you know, and it's perfect for spooky season.
Wow.
So that was
good.
That was good. I mean, we kind of covered all the bases there with Halloween and the magic of it, and then horror, but the fantasy, but then also the almost reality or creepiness of it. So thank you.
Oh my
thank
goodness,
you.
guys! I think
We love
freaks.
Halloween.
Yes, and yes, I guess that's one thing we know at the end of this.
We love Halloween, and we're freaks.
And we're freaks.
And we're freaks.
And we've been touched.
Yes. Ooh.
Well, I'm so glad to have come
Oh,
for a second time.
I thought we would go a whole episode.
The second
without
coming.
Thank you, Joseph, for coming.
Anytime.
For coming on us.
With us?
With
For us?
Thank you for receiving me.
Yes.
I can't believe I just said that. I feel so filthy.
We got on board.
To everyone else out there, hope you enjoy it. Hope you have a fun and safe Halloween, or maybe a little dangerous. That's okay. Of course, if you have any spooky stories, let us know. Maybe we can get you on here and we can talk about them. Enjoy your spooky season. I hope you had a ghoulishly good time. We love you very much. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Later.